I am Peggy Pownall. I'm mixed media painter primarily, although in this show I have included some three-dimensional things, which is a bit of a new medium for me. The passing of my husband about 3.5 years ago, which was very sudden and unexpected, and this is part of how I have worked through my grieving process is by using my art to express what I needed to express, and so that is really what directly prompted this particular body of work. My whole process was extremely organic. I just used what I felt like I somehow needed to use in that moment. And so while I used paint as well as the other elements, because that's primarily what I've worked in for years, I I just felt like I needed to use my husband's clothing as part of this body of work. I had a really, really difficult time even opening his closet door and seeing his clothes. I kept thinking I need to do something with these. And then I just started using them in my artwork. I started forming these objects out of his clothing, which was a very painstaking process, but also very meditative, very helpful in just processing the, the, the grief and the feeling of, okay, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. For at least the last probably 10, 12 years, even a little longer than that, I started incorporating collage elements, more than fabric. I started using a lot of stitching. So stitching on my painted canvases, stitching on paper, combining them with old sewing patterns and using those in some interesting ways. I think a lot of it was the repetitive nature of the work that I was doing, which is always useful to me in kind of just working through whatever I am thinking about or dealing with at the time. Setting in motion processes that are repetitive, that are meditative again, just seem to help me kind of process information and feelings, and that always is helpful to me, and it was extremely helpful in this case. Right now with the pandemic and all of the issues about the police and the murder and the protests and the deep way that we are all feeling and grieving over this, and reevaluating how we contribute to it or how we have responded to it. It's such an intense time. I think that it is really pertinent to take sort of these very, very personal experiences of grieving and relate them to a universal grieving that we're all experiencing in ways that in some ways that none of us have ever experienced before. And it's striking to me how connected those two things are, the personal grieving, and then it just spills over into being human. My experience in creating the work, and I hope when people see it, I hope it will grab them in that way, where even if they haven't experienced this particular loss, that it will tap into some way that they have experienced loss, and tried to find the hope in that, which is there, even though it feels buried sometimes. It's, I know it can surface and help us move onward, and I hope that my work will help to do that.